Good morning, everyone. It is Thursday, June 24th, and this is Nadex Morning Analysis, where we look at potential hotspots for today, as well as what to keep an eye on for later in the week since it's Thursday. My name is Todd Rich. I'm with Nadex. With me from Keep Trading Simple is Brian Caprice. Before Brian and I jump into some analysis for today, I need to share this quick disclaimer that trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for everyone. That any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. And this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your education purposes. So, what do we want to talk about today? And the first thing we're going to talk about is gold. Tomorrow morning, right before we do this session. So we will not be able to do this before tomorrow's session. So we're going to tee you up for it a little bit today. We've got some very big inflation data. Tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. Eastern, is the PCE price index. Now that is the preferred method or the preferred number that the Fed uses to measure inflation. So when the Fed's looking at inflation, this is the number that they're looking at. These are the numbers that they're looking at. So we be sure to stay on top of what's going on tomorrow morning at 8:30 before we start. You might see some things move around based upon those numbers. I will drop a link in a moment into the chat on where you can monitor what those numbers are as they come out. Now, with that, the first thing we're going to talk about is gold. Interestingly enough, I haven't touched my chart yet, but we'll get over there. You can see I haven't touched this chart since Tuesday, and gold has been very much range bound. It has stayed right in this channel that we've called out earlier in the week. Then we're going to pop over, take a look. The pound is showing some weakness. So we'll do some technical analysis in the pound, where we've been seeing some weakness against some other currencies. I think the yen and the dollar. And, if we have some time, we'll take a look at U.S. equity indices that are opening. Right now, everything is looking to open in the green. Everything across the board is up about 0.5%. The Dow, the NASDAQ, and the S&P. So maybe we'll take a look. I know NASDAQ is, again, punching at all-time highs. So with that, Brian, you know what? You're not sharing a screen yet.
Oh, am I not? Oops.
No.
My bad.
I'm going to flip it over to this one. Here we go.
The one.
All right.
Yeah. I was just looking at some of the news that just came out at 8:30 this morning. As you mentioned, the pound had a lot of their data at 7 o'clock today. This was a great little setup for any of you that were able to take it. If you attended yesterday, I talked about how this being at 7 o'clock is always nice because, you don't have to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to trade something like their monetary policy summary. But it would be a pretty interesting number. Now, yesterday, when we're looking at this, we saw that the pound dollar, pound yen was up big, right? It was a big, big mover. Today, it's just retracing back down again, and it was actually a very interesting setup, and I'll show you that in a second. Besides that, it's basically flat. The euro pound obviously is moving associated with the pound, but everything else is pretty much done. There's really just not any movement. I mean, 2 in the euro dollar, 11 in the dollar Swiss. The dollar CAD is again retracing. It had been down big yesterday, and now it's coming back up again. Aussie dollar 2. So besides that, there's not really a whole lot of movement. Now, we just got numbers for our final GDP, which typically is not expected to change. The unemployment claims number came in at 411, which is interesting because that's 2 weeks in a row now, as well as they adjusted last time even higher. I thought there was going to be an adjustment, but in the other direction, there was actually even more than what they had predicted before. And again, this time it's another week high. Now, the interesting fact is, again, this is yellow data, but core and durable goods used to be a bigger, more of a kind of an impact player. They all came in really kind of negative. I mean, core durable goods orders, that while still positive, they were down what they were before. The durable orders, again, down. And then the preliminary wholesale inventory numbers are actually going up. So orders are going down, more people are unemployed, and the inventories are getting higher. So kind of an interesting kind of story there that's unfolding in the markets. Now, as far as how the dollar's taking it, it's not taking it, or I'm sorry, the gold, it's not taking it great as it shouldn't, with that not having great data as far as orders go, it shows that maybe there is still some vulnerabilities inside of the economy. Um, what it means, again, it is going into kind of summer months of things, and you expect to slow down. But remember, gold is based off of inflation and people wanting more and more things and more expensive things. Not having the orders and inventory rising, when you get a lot of inventory, the first thing you do is you start to drop the price, which is the opposite of inflation. So, not necessarily the best gold story, but as you mentioned, we are still channeling sideways. We talked yesterday about the 1791, the 1764. This is where we were yesterday, and I don't know how many of you attended the workshop on Tuesday when I talked about parabolic retracements. Well, guess what just happened right here? That was a parabolic retracement. And for gold, it was a nice little drop of about $12.50. That's a pretty nice move in gold if you can catch it in one day, particularly in about 2-3 hours. So hopefully you guys were able to take something. You open up those demo accounts like we talked about, and hopefully you guys were able to trade that. If you guys didn't watch that or you haven't seen the parabolic retracement, I would go on the Nadex webpage and watch it. I did give away a newsletter that you guys can find these kind of turning points. For those of you that don't know how to do it, there's definitely some people that have signed up for it. I was going through emails and things like that. So watch the recording. I believe you guys are going to leave the link on there for it as well. Take advantage of it. So
I just dropped it on there where you can find the links. They're all the top recordings. And if I can, it's also, there's a playlist on our YouTube channel, but they're right there on the Nadex website. So I made it nice and easy. You can check out that link.
Yeah, so I would expect this to kind of, again, roll around a little bit more. Again, we're having the same scenario. Besides that one big candle and a decent retracement, we still just have way too many small bodies and tiny wicks. Or I'm sorry, tiny bodies and longer wicks. So
yeah,
so nothing exciting. Watch those two. And again, if we do break 1800 is going to be a psychological level. We are within range if we get one more type of gold spike, at least with the open today. 1800 will be big because the media will jump all over it, and that would be a sign that I would say, hey, listen, look for a minor pullback and something to go long, maybe up into the 1810, 1812 range. But right now, I think going through 1791 and as well as buying down here at 1764 is probably decent. And again, if we see another big burst, when they happen, you got to take advantage of them.
Yep.
So,
I just want to sort of show. I'm going to extend this out. We haven't touched these charts. I'm just going to extend this out, and you can see that these levels have been. It's just range bound. It's just range bound, and we've got these levels that where buyers and sellers are stepping in, and really what you're looking for. You can play between these levels, and when it did, interestingly enough, when it popped through this one, the one time, it came up to the one right above it. You could be playing these moves. I mean, here it's. I don't know if we count that as 3 touches. I mean, certainly, I don't know if that considers that a 4th touch. So the 5th time is it going to blow through there? I don't know. You could play it. Everything is pretty calm in gold. It is a bit range bound, but when it goes, it could really it could go. Again, based on some of the numbers that we're looking for. So tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. Eastern. Be aware, I dropped that link. In fact, let me flip this around. I dropped the link for the Daily FX calendar, and I would save that. I would bookmark that page. I know Brian also uses the was it the forex.com one? Is that who you use?
Forex Factory.
Forex Factory. I'm sorry, Forex Factory. The Forex Factory calendar as well. And you could use them both, but it's not
just Forex Factory. It's not the Forex Factory.
it's Forex Factory.
We're gonna call it the Facebook.
Drop the Forex. Well, you know what? I use Daily FX, and not the Daily FX. I use Daily FX. I use Daily FX. That's the one that's my go-to, and it's all right there, and I find it very easy. So. To each his own on what they prefer, but you could definitely track that number. Tomorrow morning should be interesting when we get that inflation data, and we get another glimpse into what's really going on. All right, you want to move on? We could take a look over at what's going on in the pound.
Sure. Yeah, I was trying to match something up. Yeah, there it is, right there. All right, so the pound. We knew we had data coming in today for the pound. The monetary policy summary for basically all nations has been a pretty good trade setup right now. Talking about recovery, what the steps look like going forward. Everything pretty much came in as expected. I don't know that everybody fully expected the unanimous vote and the bank rate not changing. They really kind of left things. I mean, and this is dead on what the forecast was. But it was an interesting setup because, again, it goes back to news. I didn't get to watch Chris Vecchio's full program or full presentation yesterday, but I will say that this was a pretty easy setup this morning. So whenever we're going to news, we always want to see what pre-news moves look like. We talked yesterday about a 154.19 drop. If we broke through it, look for it to continue further, as well as the pound. We were looking for levels. We had him just a little bit higher up here at 140. But both of these setups were basically identical. Right before the news at about 5:30 this morning, and again, the news came out at 7, price drove up into really a 15-minute or a 30-minute level. It's the same level pretty much on either one, which opens up interesting opportunity. And I have the pound yen up here right now. And the reason why was one of the nice ways to play news beforehand. And again, understand the reason I like news is because it provides catalysts to move the market. I don't know necessarily where it is. Is it, I talked about this on Tuesday that you can trade pre-market news moves, or you can, again, take some of the uncertainty out and trade the post after you have a big movement in price. Well, for the pre-news move, this was a great little trade setup. And I was checking, I looked at the knockout. I had those marked on my other screen. Here was the knockout. And when we pulled back up, I mean, there was very, very little bit of risk in here, about 15 points or 15 pips. Very small amount of risk. Here's the full knockout that you could have traded. And again, whenever we see pulling up at an extreme range for me is really kind of like where you pull the trigger on these. I was double checking real quick as well. There just happened to be a 7 a.m., which again, price drove up. So you would have had to get into it pretty quickly, which is fine. There just happens to be a knockout bracket, or I'm sorry, a call spread right up here in the same exact area that starts. There's a 7 to 3 p.m. that starts at 155 flat, which is right here. So that one was really, really close as well. And then obviously there was some of the 2 hours, but the 2 hours are a little bit harder, and there was unfortunately nothing for that one. So nice little move. And again, you could have done this with the binaries as well. It's always nice when you have a knockout with a floor ceiling in very, very close proximity. So right now, as we talked about, after we see a large move in price, now this wasn't, it is a parabolic move. It's about 105 pips. It's not quite an ATR on the daily. But I will say at this point, it went down and grabbed orders where it should have. It did break through. It didn't go fully because, again, it is a news burst. It wasn't the Harry Potter kind of trade setup, and that's what we had the short here for. So I would expect the retracement back up again. And again, we may get some basing. If we get basing and you're looking for an entry, I'd say that 154.37 is probably decent in the pound yen. Pound dollar, it's kind of the same thing. You guys can see it came down. I'll drop this up to a 30. It's really the same chart. But you can see that's where buyers had stabilized it previously in the past from here to here. Let me make that solid again. And that's exactly what we ran into. We actually broke through it just a little bit, grabbed those buyers, and now we're starting to retrace back up again. And this one was the same thing. I'll drop it down to 15. I can do it on 5. It really doesn't matter either way. But you can see we had a level of basing. Price pushed up, 655. We were sitting there holding inside of a level, which again is typically the trigger that you want to pull. And the initial spike was about 70 pips to the downside. If you guys are not accustomed with the short duration binaries or the shorter duration binaries, the ones that I like the most, let me just bring this up real quick and I'll show you guys. The 7 and 9, pull this across. Hopefully you guys can see that. Let's blow this up a bit.
We're going to have to get you on the dark mode.
Yeah, I have it on some. I try to stay consistent with it. But what I'm trying to point out here, guys, is this. Do you guys see the strike differentials here between the 7 and 9? We already knew. Here, I'll put it over here, make it a little easier. You see how they're only 10 pips apart, right? And how many of them is there total? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So at the 7 and 9, right? Where's it going to be? Smack in the middle. There's only 4 up, 4 down from the at the money option here, right? And we know they're 10 apart, so it was a total of 1, 2, 3, 4. 40 pips. There's your movement in one candle. This is a 5-minute chart. This single candle went 69.7. So what does that tell me? It tells me that it blew every single one of these out, and that's why all the prices are missing right now on the other side, because it's so far out of the range. So that's how you guys trade news. Again, that's why it's pretty fun to do that beforehand. And now you've already got one profitable trade. Now you look to take it and you reverse it back up on the other side. So if everything I'm saying is Greek to you, again, you need to go back and watch some of the webinars that we've put out because this is exactly what we talked about on Tuesday, playing the retracement, but also how to trade it beforehand.
And with that pound, I was just going to say, you've got the pound yen, which Brian was talking about. You've got the pound dollar. Brian was talking about.
Oh, look at you tearing tickets off now.
I'm just putting the charts up. Yeah, by the way, you can completely customize the platform. I'm doing this on one. But you can tear off order tickets and charts so that you can have multiple charts and multiple order tickets. But if you were following the pound, you could have an order ticket and a chart for all three of these. The euro pound doing the exact same thing, but the other in the other direction. Let's get rid of the pound yen. Yeah, here I think I got the euro pound back here. So yeah, certainly you could be playing this across multiple pound pairs as the pound makes a sharp move weaker. All right. I was going to say, Brian, is there any parting shots? Did you want to cover anything quickly on any of the equity indices as we go into the open? I was just going to take a quick peek here. It looks like we're where we were when we started. Dow's up 150, Nasdaq up 80 near all-time highs, S&P up 18. Everything opening around 0.5%, around a 0.5%.
Yeah, they're all reacting to the unemployment numbers and the durable goods orders right now. In reality, I mean, we're seeing right now the VIX is down 4.11%. That's a decent drop. Again, today's data is not positive, but unlike normal circumstances, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Remember, when the economy is overheating, cooking, high inflation, that's where we start talking about putting in factors that will actually hurt the economy or hurt the stock market. The factors today basically say, listen, we're not changing anything. See, the economy is not that strong. We need to stay. So it's kind of like a weird situation where it's like, oh, these numbers are bad, but in overall, yeah, they're bad, but that also means that it will lead the Fed to not change things. And the number one piece, and again, they're yellow, but when you look into the actual numbers, again, orders are down, inventories are up. You don't raise the prices on things when you have that scenario. So maybe the Fed has seen something like this already that they're saying, "Hey, listen, inflation's going to be it's going to be transitory. It's going to disappear eventually. We promise, because this is the environment we're getting." But again, I don't see services, calming down, and I know, this unemployment number I think is misleading. Yeah, there's more unemployment claims going in, but a lot of this too is that people are demanding more from their employers because they know how big of a kind of a labor market is right now, that they just can't get employees right now. So they're leaving and filing unemployment claims, basically to, say, hey, listen, you need to pay me more because there's no employees and I'm willing to work.
And again, we're seeing that in certain pockets. I mean, there's places where, again, I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. For instance, near some of the national parks in Utah, McDonald's is actually having to offer $18 an hour, which is double the minimum wage out in Utah. They're having just to get people to come, and they're crowded. They can't. I mean,
it just shows you how much money they actually make off of us at McDonald's if they can go that high, right?
Yeah, particularly the ones near the national parks where they're having to close the doors and tell you the park's full. Sorry, you're gonna have to wait 4 or 5 hours until some people leave, as everyone clamors out of their houses and want to go commune with nature again. All right.
I think watch tomorrow morning is going to be the big key. It's supposed to drop a little bit of point number. Yeah, tomorrow, and again, if you look at the history of it here, they've missed each time. They've said that it's been lower and it's come in higher. We're probably due for a red one, right? I mean, it's been a while since we got a red, or even just a complete even. It's at 0.6. If it comes in at 0.5, 0.3, 0.2, that's where Pal's like, see, I told you so.
Right.
So we'll see how it turns out tomorrow. But we'll 8:30 tomorrow morning a.m.
So right before we go, we will talk about that tomorrow morning, but it will have to unfortunately be 15 minutes after the fact. With that, you have any questions for Nadex, email us, customerservice@nadex.com. Any questions for Brian, you can catch him at support@keeptradingsimple.com. I did drop in a couple of links into the chat, one for the economic calendar over at Daily FX, one for the archive for those recordings from the boot camp if you'd like to catch any of those on the Nadex website. Today, we did talk about gold channeling, but again, preparing for some possible volatility tomorrow morning. We're seeing some weakness in the pound, and we did a little analysis on equities as we are going into the open where everything's looking slightly in the green. With that, we will catch you again tomorrow morning, and we want to wish everyone good luck in the markets.